The gentlemen are here and ready. We're talking about two very important issues this morning. First, Enoch Ifuakwa, National Communications Team member, is here. Good morning, Enoch.
Good morning, Anne.
How are you doing?
Oh, God has been merciful. We are doing very well and we are doing great. The economy is taking shape and we give thanks to God and the government of Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo and the president in waiting, Alhaji Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. You know he's winning the elections.
Is that so?
Oh, he's winning the elections.
I see.
We will get there. When Julius Malema came, he gave an advice to the people of Ghana when he was reprimanding the ex-president, John Dramani Mahama. There was a similar advice he gave to the people of Ghana through the Rise Ghana
like you said, we'll get there because I think he also gave some advice to the president.
We will espouse that.
But also here,
thankfully, the man Bawumia
we will get there. We are not there yet. Please, let's put our phones on silent. Also seated is Mr. Bernard Mona, the former chairman of the People's National Convention. Hi, Bernard.
Hi.
How are you doing today?
In a very difficult economy, you have to always be pondering. Things are just unwell. And it is shameful and disgusting that those who have made our life worse off are still hoping that we'll give them a renewal of mandate to finally finish us. This is scandalous.
Do you play Mortal Kombat?
I don't have an idea of what that is.
You just used a line from Mortal Kombat.
Okay.
Thank you for coming today. It's great to have you.
It's always a delight.
And finally, Prof. Sharif Khalid, National Communications Team member of the NDC, is here. Good morning.
Good morning, Nan.
Great to have you.
Great to be here again.
Awesome. Yeah. So, gentlemen, I'd like us to go straight into it.
You're going to ask me how I was also feeling about the economy, but you seem to have skipped that.
How are you doing?
Well, I mean, for a government that for the second time Malema has been able to make his way into the country because the first time he was gagged, so that's why being the second attempt he was able to come in. I'm wondering what it is about Ghana that the people or the government seem not to allow international dissident voice to be present on our soil. Then that's quite problematic, and I've just seen Afakwa trying to quote him to cheat at the opposition party, and I'm wondering why you can cash in on something you were preventing to happen in the first place.
We never prevented him from coming.
You have no idea.
Why did he not come in the first place?
He's referring to.
Let me say this because
the convention that was supposed to take place. But we'll talk about it when we get there.
Instrumental in this.
It was your event.
Cancellation of his flight.
Is that so?
Yes, there was a near revocation of the permit because he came with a private flight. There was a near revocation of that permit. That is one. Number two, even as he was coming, you could see that I don't know what panic is. There were flights up and down, jet fighters. The second part is that before we could say Jack, national security had virtually taken everything that we said we were going to do. Before we got to President Mahama's house, national security operatives were there. Before we got to President Kufuor's house, they were there. And at the grounds, national security has taken over.
When you say taken over, what
we just spotted them and we decided that, look, our security team had been very efficient. And one of the guys, when our security person spotted him, they did background check and obtained his number. And soon they called him. And when they called him by his name and by his phone, he's like, where did you get my number from? And said, what are you doing here? So we don't give ourselves easily like that, as you may think. We are also efficient in protecting our own. So don't underestimate our capacity to contain ourselves. And all these things...
We will have a full conversation on this.
All these things will not deter Pan-Africanists, will not deter those of us who think that wrong is being done and perpetuated on the youth of our continent from speaking our mind. And yesterday, Malema said it in more eloquent terms, probably to your hearing.
Yes.
All right. So we'll get into it when we discuss it fully.
But let us first
let us go according to our plan for the morning. So we'll begin.
President Mahama is an asset of the state.
You can address it fully when it's time.
Malema is an asset.
You can let us know fully when it's time to discuss that. But now we're going to talk about the TUC. All right. So we have heard from the Secretary General of the TUC telling us that the TUC TUC, Bernard, if I may, that the TUC has given government up to the 31st of January to totally withdraw the 15% VAT on electricity. All right. The Trade Unions Congress have given government up to the 31st of January to withdraw the 15% VAT on electricity, saying that if this is not done, or if government does not heed to their call or their appeal, they will advise themselves. And at a time when we're having a lot of complaints and calls from Labour, well, this is the latest in the many calls from Labour. First, before we go into the conversation proper, I'd like us to take a look at the video where the TUC made this call.
You impose tariffs on poor consumers of electricity, and then the wealthy multinationals, you are going to remove it. And he met them and assured them that by the end of this quarter, they are going to remove VAT from exploration for these rich companies. I mean, so what kind of country are we living in?
But so far, we have not heard anything. It means what? They are taking us for granted. And we want them to know that this one there is not going to be a showdown. It's going to be giddy, 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 giddy. We are going to make sure, say, if they don't let us sleep, we also don't let them sleep.
All right, so those were videos from the Secretary General of the TUC, Dr. Ba, and also the Executive Secretary of CLOSAC, Isaac Bampo Ado, talking about the imposition of VAT on electricity and the TUC's position. Their position being that they expect government to withdraw this as soon as possible, deadline being the 31st of January. And if this does not happen, they say they will advise themselves. Enoch, what's the government's response to this call from the TUC?
Let me say a very good morning to your cherished viewers and extend the greetings of His Excellency the Vice President and the President in waiting, come January 7, 2025.
You see how
to yourself and the good people of
Ghana.
Ghana.
Please allow him to talk.
Oh,
Akufo-Addo has become...
Please allow him.
Bernard, please allow. You get your time.
Yes,
you see,
allow him
when
to
it gets to your time,
He's
you
still
can...
lame duck, eh?
You can use it.
Okay.
You can use your time for whatever good reason that you want to use your time for.
Thank you, sir.
By the time of His Excellency Alhaji Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, the President in waiting, because all the major policies of this government that is aiding and uplifting the image of the Republic of Ghana and pushing us into the international arena, you cannot mention any of them without associating the name Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia to it. The most visible vice president ever in the history of the Fourth Republic. Granted. And Ghanaians are going to reward him. He extends his greetings to you now. He really admires the way you moderate your shows and always watching you. We listened to the Secretary General of the TUC, Dr. Yaoba, at the TUC Hall, judging from the imposition of VAT on lifeline consumers as far as electricity consumption is concerned. And you recall that as far back as 2013, the VAT Act, Act 870, was passed. And under this Act, Section 25 and 37 mandate or enjoin government to take taxes on VAT on electricity consumption as far as those who consume the maximum, beyond the maximum threshold, that's the lifeline consumers are concerned. Mm-hmm. It was imposed in 2013 under the NDT, but it suffered implementation challenges. We were not able to implement same. You remember that when we were campaigning in 2016, we told the people of Ghana that we were going to revoke some nuisance taxes to aid in the development of our industries, to uplift people from poverty lines, and to enhance our competitiveness as far as our production and manufacturing sectors are concerned. And government in 2017 did justice to that. You remember the abolition of nuisance taxes like the 1% import levy and a whole lot of them, 17.5 VAT on flight tickets, and a good number of them that we can mention, those on spare parts and other things. We reduced a lot of them, and the government receives applause on that. The economy was doing well between 2017 and 2019. That averagely the economy was growing around 7%. But for COVID-19 and this Russia-Ukraine impasse, which will continue to harness and mention, to the admiration of the good people of our country, that we were doing very well around that time. And this COVID-19 impact affected the entire global economy, brought out the vulnerabilities of the developing countries or developing economies, including that of Ghana. And we suffered a setback in our economy. After this COVID-19, as much as we were about taking off, this Russia-Ukraine impact also came in, affecting the international commerce as far as the energy sector and a good number of our international commodities were concerned, bringing us to our needs. Now, there was a time to go to the IMF. And as part of the PCPEC, that is the COVID-19 recovery and economic program that the government of Ghana subscribed with the International Monetary Fund, we were enjoined to aggressively mobilize resources internally, which is part of the IMF conditionalities. And as one of the measures that was identified was this tax policy sitting on our books. We have legislated on it in 2013, and we're enjoined to implement it. But thankfully, the government has a listening government. The president has a listening president. And as a law-abiding person who has signed on to the IMF program, the minister gave green light that this tax measure be implemented by the Electricity Company of Ghana, NEDCO, and all these power supply companies, taking effect on 1st January 2024. If you buy electricity now, you will not see this 15% VAT on electricity tariff on your receipt, because ECG has told us that their system, they cannot calibrate their system to capture this tax measure now until they take new systems, they put in new systems to be able to collect this revenue. Although approval has been given for the implementation of this, but it has not taken off. So what we plead with the TUC and organized labor is that although this tax measure has been sitting on our books since 2013 and has suffered implementation challenges, or we have not implemented same at all, although the IMF is on our neck as a government to implement same, Electricity Company of Ghana has served notice that for now, they need to put in stringent measures before they can implement this tax measure. So now, if you buy electricity, prepaid unit or whatsoever, you will not see VAT charge on the credits that you are buying. So it means that it has not yet been implemented. So the threat, the plea of organized labor is that government should revoke same, government should not implement same, government should stop the implementation and all the rates. And what I can say this morning is that this tax policy, although green light or approvals has been given for its implementation, has not been implemented as at the time it was taxed to be implemented on the 1st of January 2024. So
but
it is there.
It will be implemented.
It is there. If it will be implemented, it would have been implemented since 2013 under His Excellency John Dramani Mahama. But it is still there.
No, it's different. When it was legislated, okay, so in 2013, that is when this law came into being.
Yeah.
In 2024, that was when Ken Ofori-Atta wrote to the ECG and so on to activate this tax and begin to tax Ghanaians, for Ghanaians to pay. They are not doing so now because of calibration issues, but not because they are not implementing. The implementation order has been given, and so should they cross this calibration problem, the taxes will be collected. Is that not so? Very,
very much so. But until the calibration is imputed.
So it doesn't mean it has not been implemented. It has been implemented.
So
we'll be charged. If we wake up tomorrow morning and they tell us that they have been able to go around the calibration problems and they can now charge us, we will be charged.
Absolutely. So it is procedural. The law was passed in 2013. It has been on our statute books from 2013 up to 2024. It has not been implemented. Approvals has been given for its implementation in 2024, 1st January 2024. And today is 24th January 2024. we've not still seen any sort of implementation as far as this tax measure is concerned.
What is your understanding of implementation?
Implementation is such that at the end of the day, the deductions will start from day one. That means that it has fully been implemented. But once green light has been given, immediately the law was passed and was assented, it is law. It is written on our books.
The fact that it is law doesn't mean it has been implemented. The death penalty has been on our law books forever, but it was not implemented.
The last time it was implemented was in 1990,
yes.
1993.
Yes.
So it was implemented.
Yes. So
it is only so that presidents have failed to assent to the death penalty. Does not mean it has not been implemented. It has been implemented. The last time was, I think, 1993.
So you're saying that even though Ken Ofori-Atta has written to ECG Nedco to actively implement,
good,
and collect
15%
on electricity, 15% VAT on electricity for all above lifeline consumers. Because these organizations have not, they say, because of calibration issues, have not started collecting, implementation has not taken place. And so this call from the TUC is moot.
It's moot, I must say, because it has not been implemented. It is very much so that it is moot.
So if we are told tomorrow that they will begin to collect, all right, because they are not saying they are not collecting because they would not, but it's just because of procedural issues. They will cross that line and then they will collect. Until then, there should be no calls.
No, until we cross that line, implementation has not really taken off. That is very much so. It is pretty much so.
So if implementation has not taken off, all right, and therefore it's not a problem, what was the use of that letter from Ken Ofori-Atta?
The minister has given a directive. This is a tax measure sitting on our statute books. It is law. It ought to have been implemented as far back as 2013. Under successive governments. The first term of Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo, this tax measure was not implemented. Even the last term of His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, the tax measure that he promulgated and assented to was not implemented. The second term of His Excellency Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo, based on the IMF program and the PCPEC, we are enjoined to, as part of our medium-term revenue measure and strategies, to go into some various tax measures and to generate much more revenue domestically. And this tax measure was identified. Fine. A letter has been written to the various agencies to implement it. They have also responded that, based on calibration issues, they need to update their systems, get certain machineries in place to be able to do same. And until they do same, implementation has not started. It has not been fully implemented. So it is very much so. It is procedural matters, and let us accept same and go by it.
I see. Okay, Sharif.
Well, I mean, it's. I think my brother is singing from either a hymn book from Asylum down as far as communications is concerned, or probably because if we're in 2024 and you're still talking Russia-Ukraine, when we have left this debate behind us 3-4 years ago, I'm wondering how that has a play to do with this VAT and the economic fortunes of the country. But today, I mean, these things are reflective. How much is a flight cost to Takoradi, from Accra to Takoradi? How much was it some 5 years ago? Was a flight cost from Accra to Tamale and vice versa? These are the fundamental questions we should be asking ourselves. When we talk about VAT issues, I find it very strange and disingenuous when this government wants to stand on its feet to talk about VAT. When we have the poster boy, the kingpin of Kumupreko, right? He, Nana Akufo-Addo, was the poster boy at anti-VAT. Today is enjoying VAT and implementing the willy-nilly all over the place in very sensitive sectors. In any case, who brought us these economic woes? For 7 years, we're recklessly on the bond market, borrowing spree at interesting rates, where we had the sitting finance minister's own financial institution playing transactional advisory roles. How much taxes did he pay in these transactional advisory roles to turn around to slap VAT on a very sensitive sector as electricity? In any case, granted that the NDC even implemented it in 2013, right? Just a few months ago, the president refused to accent certain bills into law because he said the resources were not there to do that. What prevented him from stopping saying, the VAT So these are all fundamental questions we need to ask. So I think it's a disingenuous conversation when it comes to VAT issues and implementations. And this government does not have the moral right to do so. More so when you have had what? DDEP, both domestic and on the international front. The second tranche of the IMF loan is only coming in because we just had restructuring without external debtors. A government that in and of itself is asking for a moratorium, a respite, a honeymoon not to pay its outgoings in terms of loans, is slapping a 15% VAT on poor consumers. I mean, where is this coming from? Where's the insensitivity coming from? But you see, there's something fundamental about the energy sector no one is speaking to. How much of power, in terms of megawatt terms, has this government added since its inception to be slapping a VAT or to have the moral justification to slap a VAT of 15%? Apart from designing schemes of loot and share within the energy sector, which are revealing self-evident in SML, because they usually like to go for low-hanging fruits, extractive sector, oil and gas, energy, PDS, to the extent that they even tried to move, or if they've moved it, I'm yet to check, a power plant, the Amari power plant, from the Western region to Ashanti region at an astronomical figure. The amount it would have cost, or it will cost to move that power plant, could pay or half of the amount we owe Sonin Asagle power plant. So what justifies all of this? So you look at clear recklessness within the energy sector, and this is why it's not like they're even having prudent management, where the people of Ghana would say, okay, well, they are justified enough to say, let's have 15%. You are moving a power plant. That's what interests you. Simply because it's a sole source contract and you have whatever you can do with it. I mean, I think that we ought to look at these things and call out the government on most of the things they are doing. Russia, Ukraine. I mean, who still talks about Russia, Ukraine? We long left this debate. Before Russia, Ukraine, there was an IMF report that indicated where we're headed. In any case, any economic gains we're having as of now is thanks to the IMF program.
Right. What do you say to people
What domestically
who say
have we done?
Because of this IMF program and the fact that one of the conditionalities is that we raise funds domestically, then it's important for this, for example, VAT, 15% on electricity, to be implemented?
So, well, as I said, or as I've always said, the IMF, or the last budget that has been read, is a response to the IMF program. So in any case, why did the government not foresee, as managers of the economy, with Dr. Bawumia as what head of the economic management team, they didn't envisage that they could do this themselves, where they could introduce tax measures that are prudent, fit for purpose, reflective of the circumstance of the time. We are, to borrow the finance minister's own words, is a pernicious period where there is pain. So is this the right time to introduce VAT? So there's just no justification to do any of these issues based on how this government has acted or even invested in the energy sector and how they've handled it. The energy sector has become a cash cow for their scandalous activities, which is, as said, evident is, in SML, right, in PDS, among many others which we are yet to see. So I think that is about time they take a back seat. And so CUC's call is in the right direction. They know what they are calling for. And the government ought to come out to respond clearly rather than hiding under or holding onto the straws of Russia, Ukraine, which it's non-existent as we speak now.
All right. Max Kofi Aflu, a tax consultant, has sent this message. He says, good morning, now. Can you tell the MPP communicator that the VAT law was reinforced by the MPP government through the VAT, into brackets, Amendment Act 2019, which is Act 1005? All right. Bernard. You seem to be in a very solemn mood this morning.
You know, it's terrible, to every day wake up to the height of insensitivity of the Nana Addo government and the policy prescriptions of Ken Ofori-Atta that continue to impact negatively on the well-being of the people of Ghana. So sometimes when you sit down and you listen to people like Efuakwa justifying, and then we all go out there and there is a huge lamentation about how things have been terrible, I think it's time. to heed to the advice of Comrade Malema, that it doesn't pay and it doesn't do any good for people to feel that because you are between or inside or with a political party, when you know ditto that the things that your party and leadership is doing is not only inflicting pain, but it's also harming the very party you belong to. You should have the courage to tell your leaders that this one, dear, this one, it doesn't gel. And it was, and it is within that same, that when the MPP MPs took issue with the finance minister and the way over time he has miscommunicated and misinformed you, that you keep telling lies in order to justify wrong policy alignment, they took a stand and told Mr. President that sack finance minister so that we can restore dignity to the economy and ensure economic bliss for the people. If you listen to somebody like Atachian, who is a cousin of the finance minister, he said resign to save the government and to ensure peace for the economy. If you are not listening to these people. Look, the Trades Union Congress has been very lethargic. They have been inactive for a very long time. So many ills perpetuated that affect their membership. Trades Union Congress happens to be like unconcerned. So for the Trades Union Congress to raise a voice on a matter of this nature, and for you to come and say that is moot, no consent, no consultation, nothing was done with the union. You just get up and say that, go and do it. And your justification is that it was a law passed in 2013. Are you aware that the Representation of People's Amendment Act was passed in 2007? Are you aware? Has it ever been implemented? So stop this. In any case, if somebody passes a law and sees that it is unimplementable and refuses to implement the law, it is for you to come and implement a law that is inimical to the well-being of the people. It undermined how inefficient, how you have not realigned yourself to the proper thinking. Is it every law that you have implemented? There is an Okada law that prevents the usage of motorbikes in town. It was passed. Why is it that we are not stopping the motorbikes from being operational? Because we have seen that it is not implementable. So don't come and sit here and say the law was passed in 2013, a justification for it to be implemented now. It was not implemented in 2013 for obvious reason, because it will impose hardship on the people of Ghana. At this time, when everything has been run amok, down, people cannot survive, you still want to introduce more taxes. So what has happened to the president's own thought that we should divert from taxation to production? What has happened? It is a clear case that, look, President Akufo-Addo has appointed a finance minister who is an albatross on his neck and squeezing him. But he is unable to loosen the noose so that he will brief. Ken Ofori-Atta simply is a misfit for our economy. And the longer he continues to stay, institutions and unions like TUC, that in my opinion has not lived up to the billing of working for the interests of labor. Because see, you cannot be representing labor. Journalists are beaten. Are they not part of union? Right? Journalists are threatened and TUC is tongue-tied. You cannot be part or be the main union for workers. And then you see that Bank of Ghana has done things that has the potency of undermining the monetary space. And when we are going on demonstration, TUC sits unconcerned. You cannot be part of labor when every time government is increasing and it has to take civil society organization to be talking. The TUC must be active in the pursuit of the well-being of their people. And today, that TUC that has been inactive for a long time is telling you that as for this one, it's going to be giddy, butu, 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 butu. And you sit here and say it's moot. Wait until they get you. Then you will understand that, look, it gets to a time you really don't care whether it is a lion or it's a hyena. You must fight in order to survive. And this is the time that the TUC think that they have given you too much room to operate, and they think that you are taking their docility for granted. And you come and sit here and say that they are talking hot air.
Now, Enoch, the TUC have given you, or the government, up to the 31st of January to withdraw this tax. They say that if you don't do so by 31st, they will advise themselves. In times like this, when there are a lot of labor issues and labor problems and calls on government to provide better conditions for various labor unions, do you think that perhaps you should listen to this call to withdraw by the 31st, even though you say the implementation has not taken place?
No, thank you. Our government, the government of His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo and Alhaji Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, is a listening one.
Okay.
In as much as our government is a listening government, I believe there will be some level of discussions, stakeholder dialogue and engagement as far as these measures are concerned for Ghanaians to understand the state in which we are,
okay, and
the position of government, whether government is going ahead as far as the implementation of this tax policy is concerned or not. But as I rightly mentioned, the government understands the pain. The government understands the sensitivity of the people of Ghana. There's no government in our republic that in an election year, as harsh as the conditions may be, government will introduce some policies that will, as it were, anger the people of Ghana for the party to suffer negatively as far as the elections are concerned.
Okay.
So I believe that it is good that Ghanaians are talking. It further deepens our democratic dispensation because government is by the people and for the people. And in as much as we are contributing to the discourse of our country, as far as the governance of our country is concerned, it is right to do so. I believe that in a democratic setting like ours, it's a society-led system. It is not purely a state-led system. It's a society-led system in a democratic setting like Ghana. Certainly, the calls from major stakeholders also come out to fashion out government policies and iron out the ills and make sure policies of government are better and better serve the good people of our country. To it, we have suffered a lot through acts of God in our tenure of office. We are gradually doing what we can do as a government to uplift the suffering of our people.
So you would listen and withdraw the tax?
Nah. The government is already listening.
Okay.
Which government are you talking?
The government of Ghana is already listening.
Okay, but the question is about this VAT on electricity.
Nah.
TUC is saying withdraw it by 31st. Otherwise, they will advise themselves.
Now, I state authoritatively here on your show, on this biggest national platform, that the tax measure has not been fully implemented. And until these calibrations are done, and notice have been served that ECG has mentioned that they are not ready to implement this tax measure until they put certain measures in place. So it's one of the schemes. I would not want to go into the details of the matter. Government, the Ministry of Employment and Labor Relations, and all that it is. We will negotiate with TUC and organized labor as far as these tax measures are concerned. And we believe that we will do what will serve the good people of Ghana well, as we have always been doing.
So you are going to negotiate with TUC?
We will sit with them. As a government, we will sit with TUC.
To consider their proposal?
We will sit with TUC. We will judge all. We will dialogue.
To consider their proposal.
We will look at the ends. And at the end of the day, Ghana will be victorious.
Is this a reasonable solution to the problem, do you think?
It is.
Looking at Afakwa's files and documentations, I was expecting a lot of solutions to be proffered on the table as far as these bad issues are concerned. But it does seem like his good morning to Dr. Bawumia is more of a greater content than the items being discussed. It looks like Asylum Dam has instructed that let's talk about the elections more than the sensitive issues of VAT. So it looks like, oh yeah, Dr. Bawumia says good morning, or good morning is coming from Dr. Bawumia. We understand these communication issues when they emerge from. But the real issues are, what is the solution here?
You are coming from Adabraka.
What's the real solution here, right? Because in terms of VAT, the government is explicit that is going to implement this. As to whether, if Afakwa has some timelines to tell us that, okay, the calibration will take all the way into mid-year, or first quarter or second quarter, that's where we can have a debate about it. But implementation does happen. And the TUC is responding to the announcements of the government.
It will take us more than 1 year.
It will take more than 1 year for the implementation to take place.
We need to procure certain
but the IMF will not be happy to hear what you're saying. If you don't have the authority, patient with gadgets to do
to be able to do the calibration.
Yes. Right. So it will take a good number of time before we can do this calibration.
And you say 1 year. Should we quote you on this?
It can.
It can.
Yes, it can. It's an open something. You need to make some procurement, do some calibration installations before we can align with the system.
As to whether it's commenced or it's not commenced, I'm not going to go into a rabbit hole of whether it is commenced or not. As to whether it's commenced or not, the government has announced an implementation of a VAT, which is 15%. The TUC is simply responding to the announcements of government, saying that withdraw it in 15 days or withdraw it in X number of period. So where is the argument here? In any case, when we are talking about these issues and we keep trying to exonerate Dr. Bawumia, we are talking about a man since 2008 has been pontificating on national platforms, where Professor Yanka created an opportunity for him at a central university where he was deemed as a distinguished visiting fellow or lecturer or professor, where he came in every now and again to proffer solutions, offer questions. Which of them has he implemented since taking over as chair of the economic management team? A man who sets his own questions he can't answer? Was that realistic? No, but that's what happened. Where are the solutions to the questions he posed to the late Ebita Atta?
Was President Mahama the chairman of the economic management under
Are we discussing President Mahama? No, we are.
He was not. He was the vice president, but he was not.
But who's the economic? Who's chair of the economic?
But he was not.
Who is chair of the?
No, he was not. He was vice president. He was not the chairman of the economic management team under Professor Milt, the late. May he so rest in peace.
That is not an argument. Nobody says that it is this. The argument here is not that it's the prerogative of the vice president to the economic management team. You have put powers in Dr. Bawumia to say, let him be. And he's been pontification, talking about taxes. There are videos you can play. There are tweets he's tweeted to, talking about how pernicious taxes were. Today, he's pretending over similar and same. Right? In your speeches, you've even abandoned President Nana Dankwa, and pitching comes to Dr. Bawumia. So if we are to go after what he has implemented, right, what did you say? You said from what? Taxation to production.
Yes.
Now it's even from zero production to taxation.
It is a lie.
Because this government is taxing itself.
Zero production.
It is not.
Production.
It is not.
Where is one?
What are the factories? Are they not production? They are selling over 500 shops in US and other countries. Is there no production?
Yes.
Go to Casa de Ropa. Is there no production?
Enoch, to say zero production, would you say it's fair?
Well, it's fair. I'm speaking in figurative terms.
This is from Adabraka.
So you said zero production.
Yeah, when I say zero production, right? If we are talking about 1D, 1F, and the investments that have gone in there, is this the returns we should be expecting? So if I say zero production, you will understand what I mean. Because if they say they are talking about from production, right? From taxation to production, and I said it's become zero production to taxation. What is wrong with that figuratively? It's communication, because I'm talking about how infinitesimal,
communication from
right?
I see.
How infinitesimal the returns, of 1D, 1F has been, given what investment. Today, go and look at the books of ADB, their financial books, and look at the loans that have evaporated from ADB in terms of that relates to 1D, 1F. What have we to show for this? Right? We're talking about banks that collapsed. And these are measures I also expected the TUC. So, but TUC's response does seem like, okay, well, we've spoken about Mohammed's honeymoon period. So let's speak about the VAT. It shouldn't be seen as so. Let's see a productive, organized labor that is not reactive, but preemptive, right? And is engaging enough, just not representative. And don't give room for us to have interpretations of what you represent. All
right. Bernard Mona, Enoch says that they are going to dialogue with TUC on this matter. Do you think that that's a good beginning to the solution to this problem?
Now, you know a horse.
A horse.
A horse. Mm-hmm. And you know we put a chariot at the back. You want the horse to pull the chariot. Mm-hmm. And then you go and instigate the horse to take off. From trotting, it starts to counter. Then you are now running after the horse to mount the chariot to carry your goods.
What does this mean?
Evidently, you have let out the gun and you are chasing after the bullets. Which one comes first? Dialogue or decision? Which one comes first? This is the attitude of Kenoforata that has been very nauseating and insulting to the people of Ghana and to all segments. You recall when e-levy was to be introduced. And they said there was no consultation. The bill had been passed and moved to Parliament. It was in the possession of Parliament. Then when attention was drawn that, no, if you do wide consultation, you get input to advise you away from e-levy, because it was not a sustainable way of addressing our revenue shortfalls. Then Ken Ofodata then decided that he was doing town hall meetings. So they moved to Koforidua. And when they are moving to Koforidua, they carry the baggage of the same people whose ideas are not efficacious. The same brains that evolved the concept of e-levy that the people are protesting, you carry the same group of people to go and say that we are coming to let you understand. The people have already understood and they have rejected it. So you need people from outside your realms. But what did they do? They carried Apenyo Markins. They carried John Kuma. They carried finance minister. And when they are going to a particular region, they carry people from that region. So in the Upper West region, you carry my elder brother Ambrose Derry and co. To go and tell them that if you don't do this, you the young people, you will not get employment. Our roads will not be fixed. E-levy was like Akubam. You know Akubam. Akubam, they say, that ointment. Mm-hmm. E-levy was the solution to everything, even agriculture. They said that until e-levy was passed, we will not get food to eat. We told you it was not possible. The post-consultation, what did they do? They consulted among themselves, and at the end of the day, e-levy has been implemented, leading to a catastrophic outcome. Today, you have come to say that implement 15% VAT on electricity. Then you sit here, and somersault and say you are now going to do consultation. Which consultation? Which consultation? It is for this reason that Austin Game is very surprised that you want to implement 15% electricity tariff and there was no consultation whatsoever with labor. How can you do this? Look, those who want to run democracy like they are running chiefdoms, they should leave politics and go and join the chieftaincy institution and go to their various clans and get qualified to be selected as chiefs. Akufo-Addo and Kenoforata cannot run this nation as if it is their chiefdom.